Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi LiveENODING. In this episode, I'm going to show you a simple, really simple example where animation node, Sverchok, and Blender itself using modifier will become really, really powerful if they work together. So I will be using Blender 2.8 beta, and the first one I will use is animation node. And let's save this as primitive and displacement. Okay, so I will be using animation nodes to generate a simple mesh, and the simple mesh will be, I'll start with a grid actually, grid mesh, and the output is gonna be just a normal mesh object output, and just plug this and then turn it on and create a target. So now we have a plane, and we can increase the division, and if we want to see what's going on really here, we need to turn on, just select this thing that looks like a target, and then turn on wireframe all edges. So perhaps we want to also turn off the grid so we can really see what's going on. If I increase this like maybe like 40 by 40, so we have 1600 vertices, animation nodes will start to work to make your computer works really hard because it keeps processing it as fast as it can. Turn it off and use this instead. So it's going to change only when we make a change here. So now here I'm using 100 by 100 for a grid, and it's like 10,000 vertices, so it's still pretty good. Let's do something like a simple displacement. Displacement modifier is one of the modifiers that's I think I used back then, and it is actually really powerful, especially in 2.8, because you can, when you apply a displacement, like using Blender's own procedural noise, you can see what's going on. So let's create a procedural texture, and currently the procedural texture is still kind of similar to Blender 2.79. So you generate like any kind of noise, like Voronoi or cloud. Let's try cloud first, and then you can change the size here, or you can also change the size using texture coordinates. So that's doesn't matter too much. With this guy, let's see, we can, the nice thing about this setup is that you can make changes. You can make changes to the mesh itself, and and continue to play with the displacement. So a simple thing like that, even like maybe offset the matrices, or oh, maybe don't do that for now. Just keep it simple. You can even increase this like to 10,000 by, oh, actually 1,000 by 1,000 is a million vertices, and Blender's gonna update it, including the wireframe. So this is pretty hard. Maybe for now, just leave it at smaller value. You can see it's working quite nicely. And this guy, of course, if we go back to the texture, click here, you can select other procedural texture. It's gonna update. Oh yeah, this is nice. See, and you can really see how this procedural texture affecting the surface. This is a really good and fun way to test a lot of different noise. And actually Blender built-in procedural texture is really quite powerful in itself. Even like, see that this Voronoi cell actually generate a very interesting result. Normally you only can see this if you maybe you use like subdivisions and things like that. But the nice thing, of course, you can also supply different kind of mesh if it's because it's procedural from animation nodes. So if you provide like a cylinder mesh, plug this in, so you have this. Back to a simpler looking object. Cylinder actually can make a nice kind of like island. Yeah, you can generate something like this, and maybe if I create an empty, select this object, select the modifier, and change the texture coordinates to objects and select the empty. This is where you can start to change the texture code, the scale of the texture more interactively. Cylinder mesh in animation nodes is a bit limited. It only has like height, it's got the caps, the resolution, but it doesn't have more options. So I tend to use Sverchok one. Sverchok has a lot more option for procedural creations at the moment. They both are similar and they will work together anyway. So if you look at generator under cylinder, so I will quickly generate a cylinder using Sverchok and then move it to the side. So we have cylinder, and we can easily copy the modifier, select this guy and this guy the last, Control L, modifier, so they both will have the same modifier being applied. And this guy should update, increase the subdivision, height, vertices. Okay, that's interesting. This one doesn't really do anything. Okay, okay. I need to calculate the normal. Maybe it's just little bugs. Okay, now it's good. So this guy have more control thanks to Sverchok. It has radius top, radius bottom. You can make a very interesting single island of some sort. Let's also display the wireframe on this guy. Furthermore, of course, you would like to use the matte cap or something, or Studio has a lot of option as well to see the light and how the objects kind of responds to the light. You can also create your own materials and your own light, but this is pretty good. Normally I use that. So let's play around with this a little bit. So that's kind of nice. The top part is totally deformed, but this is just experimenting. Okay, adding subdivisions. Okay, caps on, caps off. Maybe this guy need a bevel on the top. It's a little bit of bevel never hurts. Alright, okay, it's actually not too bad. It's doing like a split, very interesting split thanks to the bevel. So radius, bottom. If you want it to be more organic-ish, you can also use remesh, smooth, and reduce geometry. These decimate. This will generate more interesting surface. Of course, you can always like add some kind of detailing if you have all this and then you want to also work on this a little bit more. You can go to sculpt. Actually, go back to object. Oops, it crashes. It's still Blender 2.8 beta, so save often. File, save as. Anyway, this one, the modifier getting complex. If you have this and then you want to sculpt it, maybe it's a good idea to just convert to mesh. So you have all the modifier applied. Now go to sculpt mode, and inside the sculpt mode you can perhaps activate the there is this options to just sculpt it and increasing details. Where is it? Oh, it's actually up here, which is interesting. Okay. All right, see, draw clay. What's this? Okay, this shift is smoothing out. Control is pushing in. So you can add this type of details into this guy. But not just that, if we go back to the object mode, I think you can add a multi-resolution subdivisions and then really add details into this guy before you sculpt. So if you go back to sculpt, now this has a lot of detail. If you want and if you need it. So control and brush is pushing it in. I think I still have the dynamic topology on. Oh, it's off. Vertex data detected. Okay. Actually, I prefer doing it this way. So adding details on a low res model. Yep. So you can create some kind of maybe like a tree branch or something. Not tree branch, the tree trunk or an island, like I said. So go back to the nodes. Radius top, radius bottom. Vertices. I don't like the top part, but it's that's how it is. You can always remesh. Decimate. I guess that's not too bad. It's collapsing the top part. Planner. A planner, look, the topology is interesting like that. Okay, so yeah, that's actually another simple example on how you can use nodes and Blender's own modifier and just modifier combo to get you started with some kind of base mesh to work with. And Sverchok has a lot of generators, not just here. There's a lot hiding under experiment. But remember, this is Blender 2.8, and also Sverchok is still being ported into Blender 2.8. So there's a lot more. If you are using Blender 2.79 and using the older Blender, Sverchok already have plenty of primitive object you can work with. And yeah, I just like all this kind of combination, how all the tools work together. So yeah, there you go. I guess I have nothing else to say for now. And thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you next time. Thank you. Bye.